So, first of all, welcome to the Badwolf's channel and the VIP corner. All these videos are for education, entertainment purposes only. We are to inform you about your constitutional and private rights. So, you want to know how to win or how to beat your right to travel case. That's why you're here, right? Or you're a government agent and you want to see what we know. Either way, it's okay with me because you paid the fee to get here. But if in fact you are a loyal fan and you have found your way here, well, then welcome to Oz. And I will be your host and guide you on your way to victory. All right. So, this, like the other videos, is the detailed minutia of information that I don't put out all of it on the public side. And, well, they don't want you to share all the goodies, but we're going to share the goodies here. All right. So, this is going to be very detailed and it's going to be everything I know on how to do right to travel and how to win your court case. All right. So I assume that you have watched my other videos on right to travel before you got here. If you have not, we're going to go over right to travel somewhat quickly, but I'll try to be very, very informative. All right. To make it worth your while, just because if you're here, either you know how to do it properly or you haven't. But I have to make sure that you know how to and what right to travel is. So we're going to cover everything. Ready? Let's go. All right. So first of all, right to travel is the ability that God gave you the ability to go from one place to another. Man then codified some of these abilities into federal laws to protect us, but to limit corporations and certain governments or municipalities from encroaching on our rights. However, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence didn't foresee every single aspect. Okay. So the very last Bill of Rights, I think it's 10 or 11, the very last one, basically is an open check for good people, not for bad people. Doesn't work that way. It's an open check for good people like us because if you utilize um, that particular bill, like I said, I think it's 11, it's an open-ended check. And what it means, if you overstand it correctly, is that if you quote that the 11th Bill of Rights allows me to say that if I'm doing something and I'm not hurting anybody and it's not illegal, it's not criminal, then it is a right of mine. So, one of the reasons why we're successful in right to travel is because we utilize that as a right. All right. So that's one of the first big pieces that you're going to need when doing right to travel. That should also be in your travel binder. We're going to get into all that. All right. And when you either file your case or you claim your rights, as I will tell you how to do all of this, you want that in there. All right. So hopefully you're taking notes. Let's get into it. So once again, right to travel is your ability, your constitutional right to travel from point A to point B. Now, naysayers or those in the municipality, the police, and certain other systems will try to say, well, that just means you have the ability to take your car from this state to another state, and that is true. But other court cases, see, they never thought that they had to be so specific with right to travel. It just really makes sense. You get on your horse or whatever else, you go from here to there. They didn't know at the time that they had that this was going to be a problem where the states were going to try through the DMV who are contracted through the government to be able to offer a privilege and a license, which the law states anywhere where the states provides you with a license or charge a fee for it, and it's something you can do on your own, you can do it and ignore them with impunity. meaning you can ignore them. You have a right to do that. So, sorry, you're just, yeah. So you have that as a right, but they're going to try to argue, no, it only means you can go from this state to the other state. But see, that's because they don't study constitutional law. They don't then look at other court cases since then, and they don't want to. They want to be able to argue with you so that you then have to argue back, and they're hoping that you mess up so that they can win. So if you're on the lower state level, okay, those courts are called nisi prius. Nisi prius means that those are contract. They're also called the inferior courts. But what does that mean? Well, if they're inferior, that means they're not superior courts, like the federal court and higher. Nisi prius means contract. Contract means that in order for you to be there, there has to be some type of verbal agreement, written agreement, paper agreement, or else why are you there? You came of your own free will and accord. They sent you an offer in the mail and you accepted it. But generally, you do have to accept it if you are calling yourself a driver. See, driver in their books, Blackwell's dictionary, is a commercial term. When you were in your car, unless you were doing Uber Eats or DoorDash or something like that, dropping off a package or flowers or whatever else it is, you weren't doing anything commercial. You, in fact, were operating private. But see, your vehicle is registered to them for commercial purposes. Then you got a driver's license and said, I want to drive, which means commerce in traffic. Traffic means public and for profit. So you've mixed the jurisdiction. So this video is not for a normal driver. This is for people only who've done right to travel or are doing it. I've already made videos on how the average person can get out of tickets, but if you want additional information on dealing with the courts, then you're going to want to watch my court case videos. There's three levels of them. All of them are good. Obviously, the third one, which will be more expensive, is going to be the best one. But the first and second ones are going to have good information for the average person. You want more? Well, then you go up to the higher one and get all the information, all the goodies. All right. Which will be all the things that we've learned and we've used to win in court. All right, which are your rights. But you have to utilize them and invoke them properly and at the right times. So we're going to cover a lot of that. All right, some of that here. All right, so let's take a look at right to travel. So you have the right. I've already done videos on the court cases or opinions, federal court on why. I'm not going to waste your time here with that. This is the power course. So if you want those videos, go to my YouTube channel, go to my right to travel playlist, or type in James C Lovett, right to travel, and you'll find those. So right to travel, you got your car. Now, some people ask, can I do right to travel if I have a CDL? Okay. You can do right to travel if you have a CDL in your private conveyance, your private car, not in your work truck. You do not want to mix and match CDL truck, CDL business, private vehicle, private business. Same thing for the police officers in the private who've asked me this information. You cannot do it in your patrol car because that's for profit. You can do it in your private vehicle. And yes, this applies to everybody, anybody who's here, legit or illegit, if you want to be honest. So you want to get rid of your driver's license and you want to find your state's particular form for canceling your driver's license. It'll either be called driver's license cancel form, driver's license surrender form, temporary surrender form of license, something of that nature. You want to have that, a copy of everything, every file I tell you guys to have, you're going to want to have at least two copies, one in your house and one in your travel binder in your vehicle. Now, the reason why we call it just a vehicle or an automobile or a private conveyance is because they own the word motor vehicle. They regulate the word motor vehicle, which means they own and control all motor vehicles. However, a private vehicle is not a motor vehicle. A public vehicle is a motor vehicle. Why? Because whoever owns it is the one who can define it. And it's also defined by its use. So if you're using it for public things like DoorDash, then in fact, it's a motor vehicle. You need to be licensed, and this video is not for you. Now, you have to understand that what I teach is the legal level of law. So the average law enforcement officer is not going to know this information. Many of them do the hard way by being sued because they overstepped people's constitutional rights. How do I know this? I've already had students who've used my information to win multi-million dollar lawsuits against them. Now, by no means am I condoning to use this information, go out and do something stupid, speed or whatever else, and then get a lawsuit and try to sue them. You'll lose. You want to know why? Because if you speed, you've endangered public safety, and that negates your right to travel. Just so you know. Now, if you're doing normal things and they bother you, by law, they have no right. There's no law or statute that gives them the ability to pull you over because you have a private plate. All right. Same thing if you get a Z plate or a European plate and put on your vehicle. All right. Or a plate from another country or nation. They do not have the right to do that. That would be an impairment of your right. All right. So moving on, so you should get rid of your driver's license, close it up, give the card back, keep copies of everything, take a picture of it, get their closeout form, have one in your binder, one in your vehicle. The reason why I tell you to have copies is because if the cop on the side of the road decides to trash your binder, you don't want to have to kind of try to find all this information again. So one copy in there, one copy in your vehicle. Next up, you should not have anything in your binder that has your address on it. Have very few things that have your address on there, and if at all possible. Why? Because if they can find your address with the zip code, they're going to try to assume jurisdiction. But why do we talk about using the passport? Well, I was in fact the first person to put those two things together, right? To travel with an ID from the government, the passport. When done properly, okay, watch the videos on how to get your passport done as a state citizen or a national. I make those as well too. When you do that, that then creates a count in the government's database that you are a national and a state citizen, which can be used as evidence for court later on if you need be. It also then tells the cop that as long as you're not doing anything criminal, which operating privately is not a criminal offense, that you're operating privately. And it also will tell him when he runs it. So don't let them tell you that they can't run it. They just really want to, they're allowed to lie to you, first of all, but it will tell them that you are in fact a state citizen. Really, what it says is constitutional citizen, private, unlimited rights to carry, do not detain, et cetera, which means they need to leave you the hell alone. Because see, they don't like your homemade private IDs, okay, made on customid.com. They don't like privately made IDs, but see, they also are supposed to respect them because they're made by an American. And if you've done everything else right, like either create your own micronation, your own trust, your own state or faith-based entity, then they have to respect it. They don't like it, it's just considered a private ID. It's not a fake ID, it's private. A fake ID is if you try to make your ID look exactly like the state's as a driver's license, which mine says right to travel on there, or travel ID, all right, which is what your passport is. It's actually an identification document. So you got rid of your driver's license, you close your account, you have the paperwork, you're keeping records of turning in your driver's license. You want to make sure that your vehicle, you now create plates for your vehicle. You're going to want to go to like customsigns.com and go on there and make a vehicle or a vehicle plate. The top of your plate, by law, has to have where the vehicle is registered to. The rest of the plate doesn't particularly matter what you have on there, but a lot of people will either use their own numbers and codes. Some will get a DOT number from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. And on that application, which I've already made a video on, the very first question, the last option has private travel. You click that, get the number on there, put it on your plate, put DOT right behind it. On the top is the name of your nation, your tribe, your house, or your government, micronation, whatever it is, that needs to be on top. On the bottom, Preferably, I would put the word either foreign national or non-resident, private citizen, DOT exempt, things of that nature. I would also have your house crest, your family logo. Look up your last name, find that logo online, use it, or more preferably, modify it or go to Fiverr.com or any place, or hell, even ChatGPT can make you a family crest now and put that crest on there. Because what you're telling them is then that this logo is my ship's flag. This is the name of my uh, nation or tribe or house. Don't use the word family. They own the word family. And that's how you're going to operate. You should also have that information typed up and notarized. If you, and keep a copy, without your address on it, in your vehicle. Keep the other copy in your main one at your house, inside of your cabinet, or whatever else you have. Once you have the plates in place, other things that you're going to want to do is to go to the DMV or go online. You're going to switch the vehicle out of your legal name into your private entity name that is not registered to the system. So for me, I use Lovetica, Lovett, which is my last name, but I add ICA on the end of it, Lovetica. That is now my nation. And I have my nation registered to them in the form of having got a couple of them, hold on. This one, IRS. And I also have the IRS documents for my EIN. So in registering it with them, I've created my own entity. Now, do you have to? No, you can make yours completely private, have your own nation, blah, 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 get it notarized, you're good. I want to step further just to make sure that they know that I am registered to the government to have my own government, my own micronation, my own state, my own trust, my own religious, everything. Okay. Any of those things with a privately made name, why don't you want to use your last name and your name for the name of your trust or your entity? Because you've already registered your name to them and they can administrate it because they have it. They will never not, they will never unregister your name from all their databases. So what we need to do is make something new that they do not have in their database. If they don't have in their database, they cannot regulate it. Doesn't mean you're above the law. By no means. Nothing I teach you here makes you above the law. But it does mean that you can operate properly within it and privately. Now, most cops refer to people like me as private citizens, but if you don't know how to operate properly, then they refer to you as a sovereign citizen. They cannot prosecute you as a sovereign citizen. They may call you that, but you can sue them for that for defamation of character if you can either get it on recording or get proof of it in your documents, because there's no such thing. But the FBI refers to it as a sovereign citizen as well, which is a domestic terrorist. So the cop is then endangering you because he's made a legal determination and he's not licensed in law to be able to do that. So they're using an oxymoron in the term that has no standing in a defamatory way. So now that you've got those things done, other things that I would do and have in my binder would be, if you're going to put it into a private trust, have the private trust name on there. So then when you go to the DMV or online, you're going to transfer from James C. Lovett, your legal name, into the name of whatever your private entity is, Lovitica or Mobius 7.0 Trust, whatever it is. I would make it irrevocable. Why? Irrevocable means private, and it also means tax exempt. Revocable means it's domestic, but it can be looked at as private. I would like to push all my stuff as private as possible. Okay. So, but that's up to you. Just a recommendation. So I would have in my travel binder, I trust, I would either draft up or download a document of exportation from the United States to the United States of America and the private, or from the United States to another country that you're going to claim that your vehicle and trust is based out of. Your trust is domiciled, let's say in Germany, you go and get a Z plate, you buy a Z plate or a German plate online, put it on your vehicle, you're operating privately. The name of that entity or trust needs to be what is sold in on the DMV's website. All right. I recommend for $0 saying that you gifted it, or for one gold piece, because they don't operate generally in gold. Although I did hear in Florida, DeSantis is now saying that they accept that gold and silver are considered currency in their state. So I would probably just say that you gifted it to this private tax exempt foreign trust or entity. I would have in my travel binder. Now, I'm a little bit different. I'm not saying to do this. Once again, it's all education and entertainment, but I did create my own private ID um, from my own nation, Levitica national government. Okay. And I do have that in there, though mine does have a different name on it other than James C. Lovett, and that's what I carry. My thought is that I don't want anything with James C. Lovett on there because that's not who I'm operating as when I'm in my vehicle. However, there's nothing wrong with still yet operating as that person, because here's the thing. In each state, each state has laws that speak of non-resident persons or non-resident registration. What does that mean? All right. Now I know mine by heart, 341.40. All right. So you need to learn that, but you also should download and have a copy of that and highlighted your state's non-resident code on their legislative website and put it in your travel binder. Officer bothers you, what is he going to do? He's going to look at your VIN because your plates don't match, and he's going to anything he's ever seen or knows about. So he's going to think he has the right to pull you over. He does not, but he's going to try to do that anyway, or look for a reason to get behind you and make you nervous and uncomfortable. So you do something stupid, so then he does have a right to pull you over. Either way, you're pulled over. He looks at your VIN. He's going to ask you what's up with all this stuff. Now, I have a right to travel packet that goes over how to talk to the cops and whatever else on blackslide32.com. So I would recommend buying that package. All right. We're not going to cover all of that in here. We're going to go over the hard basics. So, because that would take hours to go over too. There's a lot of stuff to learn. So he's then going to ask you about all that stuff. You need to respond back to him properly. Hey, he's going to say, "Aren't you a sovereign citizen?" Nope, I don't even know what that is. I am a private citizen. All of my vehicle information and how I'm traveling privately or foreign as a national per the state of whatever is in here with the codes. And for the love of God, if you do get pulled over and you know what's happening, it's going down, before you stop the vehicle or as you stop the vehicle, get the binder out, put it on the dashboard, keep your hands where they can see them at all times. Do not give them a reason, even though they're already violating your rights at that point in time, to do anything to consider you a belligerent or combatant. Do not, do not, do not. If they tell you to get out of the vehicle, say, "I'm getting out of the vehicle under duress because you have a gun." Try to have a recording device, either your phone or on the screen, a plug-in up on your windshield, have that rolling. Every little bit of information you can gather from this point forward while still yet being cool, calm, and collective will go into screen, focus. Okay, whatever. Is going to go a long way for your lawsuit. And that's what you will be doing later on, is filing a lawsuit. We've had people win a minimum of 400,000 to right now a maximum of 1.5. Why? Because the Constitution protects you. The federal court protects you. The lower court, you have to fight because they want to say that you're in their jurisdiction. Just because you're physically in the same area that you both share, private and public, does not mean they have full rights to everything and everybody in the same geographical landmass or area. I've already read this in court. I've already beat them numerous times. I've had people use my information and beat them from their own free will and accord. So you want to talk to them properly, inform them of who you are. Words like private citizen, foreign national, have all your information in there to be able to hand him. If you've done everything correct, your vehicle's been properly transferred, you have your book, no main information on your address in there. There's nothing much he can do unless he oversteps the law and whatever else, and we'll get to those things. I would also have an affidavit where you're stating that you are not a resident of this state. Now, that doesn't mean that you're giving up citizenship at all. You're just saying that it can be really simple. When I'm operating in my vehicle underneath, the name for me, it would be blah, 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 blah. I am then operating as a private citizen. But do you need that even? No, you don't. It's just extra cherry on top of the cake, if you will, but you don't need it. The vehicle, now when you buy a vehicle or when you transfer the vehicle, get a copy of that and put it in the booklet, your travel binder, from you to the legal entity. All right. If you're going to buy the vehicle right away. And if you know you're going to be right to travel, like I have and did and do, then title it right away in the name of your private entity, government, trust, whatever you're going to be operating out of privately. See, when we hear the word state, we think that it's a big physical land area and that, they own it. Well, we, the people, own the ground, we own that land, but they operate a paper territorial jurisdiction over that same area. And that's why they call it state of Florida. State of Florida is not Florida State. Those are two separate things. State of Florida is a for-profit company. Florida State is the people. Now, to a lot of people, if you're not into, especially law enforcement, if you're not, because I know you guys watch my videos too, so why would I think you guys wouldn't see these or buy them as well? A lot of people think that they're the same thing. They're not the same thing. They work together in the same area. And unless you're the legal department, most of what I'm saying is going to sound intelligent but crazy. Because once again, most people don't study the law on the legal level. They don't. You have to go to school for a long time to start to be able to do what I do or to interpret the law, which is why people keep using my paperwork and winning in court. The only time you're not going to win is if you do something wrong or they run over you and do what's called as a kangaroo court. They do that, then you take them to federal court. But first, you have to try to get your court case dismissed or dropped, and then you can sue them later on. And yes, even if they do dismiss it, they've already damaged you. You can still sue. So if you have all of the pertinent information in your travel binder, that's how you do right to travel. You've made your own plates, you got rid of your driver's license, you've made either your own ID with your same name or private name. You can try to close out your complete record. Now, if you've closed your driver's license, there's still the count. Generally, they're not going to close it. They're just not. But if you want, you can try to use the federal law on right to deletion to tell them you want them to delete that record. Because what happens sometimes, you're out there traveling around, you've got your passport, you get pulled over for whatever reason. They look at the name on the passport, they then try to do something that's illegal and fraudulent and a federal offense. They're forcing joinder and it's identity theft because they're going to take your name from your passport, try to find it with a name and address in their computer system for that state. They'll then run it through the DMV. They'll find your old record. They say, this is you. You're driving without a license. Your response will be, I'm not driving without a license because I'm traveling privately and I closed that account. They'll say, well, here it says it's suspended or whatever else. That's how they keep you tied to the system because they don't get rid of the information. That's why also in your travel binder, you need to have your driver's license closeout sheet to show I've closed it. I legally cannot drive. So this is a closeout. And I'm now traveling privately under a different jurisdiction. My vehicle's registered to a private state. Okay. Now let's get to the coup d'etat, the primary aspect of this video. So if you've done all of that, you're traveling correctly. If you have not done all that, and you just threw plates on and you didn't update the DMV, you don't have a travel binder, you're still technically basically driving. If they can find information in the almighty computer, which is their God, they're going to write you a ticket. Now, have I beaten them still yet with this information that I'm going to cover with you guys here and I've used in my videos? Absolutely. So it can be done. Now, if you buy, and I highly recommend my Right to Travel packet to learn how to talk to cops. There's also a packet on how to deal with courts. It's called the Cop Stop Letter. Okay. I would get those. And when you use those, you can edit those, which are my information from my court cases that I've already won. And you can edit the information and put your information in, remove anything of mine that doesn't apply to your scenario, add in anything that does apply to your scenario into it. And here's what you have to do. So you've been pulled over, you've been violated, et cetera, et cetera. Here are the highlights of what you're going to be able to sue for and what the cop did wrong. The first thing is that when he pulled you over, if you didn't give him a reason, he is interfering with your private interstate commerce. When the cop pulled you over, he used his lights. He declared a state of emergency, and there was no emergency unless you were speeding or doing something criminal, or you match the description of somebody who's done something criminal, or you're in the act of something criminal. The cop is going to look for something called RAS, which is reasonable articulate suspicion of a crime. When you get pulled over and they bother you and you know you haven't done anything wrong, ask him, what RAS do you have? You're going to freak him the hell out. She's going to be like, oh, hell no. How do they know that? Yes, we're getting wiser. So he's just say, well, you were speeding and you were doing that. Now, you're not there on the side of the road to argue with him. Give him your binder, prepared to possibly be ticketed or towed. It's happened to me more than once. And until you get it right. And even if you have it right, you can do everything right, I'm telling you here, and still get bothered because it's just like a girl could do everything right and still go jogging into the woods and get attacked. You can do everything right and still something bad can happen. So I'm not going to tell you that no matter what you do. I mean, Cal, these people have pulled over police officers or federal agents. They think they have just this complete jurisdiction and power to do whatever they want. They don't. They just get away with it because most people do not stand up to them. That's why. Most people don't know how to fight them. That's why. But the ones who do fight them and get paid, and then they generally get left the hell alone. But the reason why you guys should be buying the right to travel packets is because you need to then send them off to the chief of police, the head sheriff, whether with your name on them or anonymously. Why? Also send it to your Congress people and to the senators. Why? Because if you want to be left alone and you want your rights, you have to stand up for them. I can't do it by myself. I've already done my little bit and I'm doing more by putting it out here for you guys. But it takes a village and village of villages to make a nation and to make change. That's the power of we the people. So if you have all of that done, you now know that him turning on his lights, you can use against him. You now know that him calling you a sovereign citizen is defamation. You can sue for that. But how do you really win your court case? Well, you've already gathered all the information if you're watching this video and you're going to do it properly because you now have these couple of bits of information. You now have the ability to show the court that you've canceled your driver's license. So everything I'm saying, you're gonna send a copy into the courts. This is why I'm setting you guys up for success. So if he calls you a sovereign citizen, you're gonna draft that up. He called me this. He turned on his lights. He pulled me over without having any RAS. He interfered with my interstate commerce. These are already enough that could possibly make him lose his job. You could go after his bond. You can sue the municipality, one or the other or both. I would recommend going after the municipality, generally not him directly, because they know how to dodge their summonses and hard to find them, hard to find their address. They won't accept it at work. They play these games too. But the municipality can't go anywhere. But you putting his name in there and the police number in the court case will then get him in trouble or her. And it will be addressed. Then the legal department will find out about it. And the risk management, who handles their bonds, or the general account that covers all of them, will hear about it. And they'll say, we need to change something because we're getting sued and people are winning. How do I know that? Because I already have many cops and a couple of sheriffs who are on our side and give me information. And many places are learning that if you see somebody operating privately, to leave them alone. But if they're doing something that warrants public administration, even though that person's private, you waive the ability to be private when you started speeding or doing something crazy or swerving in the lanes. You were endangering people. You lose it then. Okay. So you've got a couple of weapons now, but how do you execute this properly? Well, what you have to do is put your packet of information together, all of your reasons, draft an affidavit as to why you're a private citizen and you are operating privately. You're going to then send them a copy, never give them originals. You're going to send them a copy of all of that information stating your claim. Now, if you're doing it the proper way, you should have bought my cop stop judge letter packet, edited that, put all your stuff into it. Now we're getting good. Once you've done that, you have to play the game properly, which means you have to give them notice. Now, they're not going to tell you this because they want you to do everything ass backwards and wrong so that they can use it against you. What you have to do is the immediate day that you get your tickets and you've done all the other stuff correctly, you send the originals back on their refused. Make a copy so that you have the numbers and whatever else. You're going to send in with those tickets marked refused in red on a 45-degree angle across a ticket that you're not accepting the offer. You do not consent. See, they need your consent. Otherwise, it's peonage. What's peonage? It's a federal offense. I mean, it's a word that means they're forcing you to do something and you're not being paid. See, when you go to court, they're assuming that you are a member of theirs because they can find your name in the computer, but you want to rebut that by saying, at the time of the event, I was operating privately as a private citizen from a foreign state. I wasn't driving. I either, for CDL people, was not utilizing my driver's license privilege and ID card at the time of this event. So I was private. And in this state, your legislative code, enter it here, I was operating as a non-resident. My vehicle, and this is key, my vehicle is owned by a non-resident. I was operating as a private citizen or a non-resident at the time of this encounter, this event, per state of Florida legislative code, whatever yours might be. You put that in your document. But once again, you have to do the administrative process, which means you have to give them a warning. Now, they don't give us warnings. They should be giving us a warning when they pull us over. Hey, no, they don't, generally. The nice cops do. But generally, they all want that gold watch, so they have a quota, even though they're not supposed to generally have quotas anymore. But they do. When you then have to gather all that together, and you're going to send it registered. Okay. Now, here's the thing: you should make multiple copies, but hear me out. Of your entire packet, yes. You're not a national or a state citizen or a private person until you have a lot of stamps, a lot of envelopes, because you need to get your information out, and here's how you do it. They're expecting you to be in the courtroom because either you sign the ticket or now a lot of them do it digitally, which removes your right to not contract. So that's why they're doing it. But they're trying to force you to contract. So when you don't appear, you have violated your contractual obligation. So that's why you have to negate it. I do not contract. I do not consent. You have to put that on the ticket. Once you do that in your packet, you're going to send that in to well, really, if you want to be thorough, a copy to the prosecutor, a copy to the judge, a copy to the clerk. So we're all on the same page here, no hiding nothing. So really, you should send in like 3 copies. Now, if you want to go above and beyond to help ensure, now this is all before, this is like the day after this happens, or as soon as possible. The longer you wait, the harder it is because it starts to solidify like concrete that you're getting closer to the day, so you're not rebutting. So you have to rebut within the first 3 days of any contractual obligation. And this is commercial. So it follows under, because there's money being exchanged, UCC laws. The longer you wait, the worse it is going to be. But you're still going to show up or appear, but you're going to put in your paperwork. If you are to be there, you're going to put in there that I will be there by special appearance. Why? Special appearance means it's not general appearance. General appearance is for their bar members, their trustees, their people, their subordinates. And that's not who you are when you're in the private. But they get to assume that. So you must correct that. So you want to put on your documents that if I'm going to be there, I'll be there by special appearance. You want to tell them that you are a constitutional citizen and operate and exist underneath that jurisdiction. You will not be waiving your rights, which means you're keeping your constitutional rights to be private. You can, underneath your name at the bottom, you want to put your name and then certain codes. What codes would you want to put in your document under your name? Well, first of all, you want to put down there's private citizen, Constitution for the United States of America, non-resident, non-belligerent, non-combatant. You want to put codes like 8 U.S.C. 1401A, which tells them that you were born as a national, you have that as a right. GPO style manual, section 5.23, and then behind that, you want to put Floridian, New Yorker, or Wisconsinite, Delawarean, whatever it is. What are you doing there? You're telling them what capacity you were operating in then and what capacity you're operating in now. Remember, they also hate the word America. So if you wanted to put in there that you will be there by special appearance and you will bring your American flag or a copy of the Constitution, they're really not going to like that because those cannot be in their jurisdiction. Now, this stuff is not going to help if you've done something criminal, you've crashed into somebody, hurt somebody, who's been damaged. You have to atone for that. This is for victimless crimes, which brings me up to my next thing. You're going to put in your document, which is in my paperwork, that this is a victimless crime. Now, more information like this is going to be in the court case seminars and videos, so you might want to watch those. Just saying. We're going to go over the good stuff. All right. You have to give them warning before they enter into, I can't think of the correct legal word, but jeopardy. You're giving them the right to cure. You're giving them the ability to deal with it as the law states. You are supposed to try to work it out with your fellow man, or like the Bible, work it out with your brother before bringing it to God. So in this case, you're supposed to give them notice. Now, they're not giving us notice or warning. So they're not in, what is it called? I can't think of the word. There's a word for it. There's a legal word where, no, it's not meeting of minds. Um, they're not in proper legal form if they don't give you a warning before you do something that you could be penalized for. I can't think of the word. But anyway, that's the thing. But you are. And the reason why I'm doing all these things is because I'm setting you guys up to win. If you've done all these things and you do decide to sue them in the federal court and win, and you will, that if the judge asks you, did you bring this to them? Did you bring it to their attention? Did you try to work it out first before coming to us? And you're going to be able to say, yes, I did all of those things before coming here. The judge is going to say, well done, well done. And then the judge can award you up to 3 times the amount of money that you're seeking because you've done the administrative process. You're competent. That's also another thing on the bottom of the your letter when you sign it or autograph it is you want to put on there that you are age of majority, which means you're over 18, and that you're competent, which means you have the mind of an adult. If not, they get to assume you don't have those things. All right. So within the first 3 days, or as soon as possible or within good reason. Don't wait a week or a day before. You're going to mail those off, register. If you have to send it certified, whatever. Um, and then you're going to wait. They're going to get it. Oh, I didn't mention also who else you can send it to. You can also send a copy to the district attorney. You can send a copy to the chief judge of the county where this happened. Now, they don't really like to be bothered, not the chief judge especially. I usually only use them if I really feel like I need to push the point. District attorney, they're run of the mill and they should be involved in it because they're there to represent your rights if these lower courts get things wrong. So let's say that the prosecutor is shady, the judge is shady, and the clerk, well, I hate to say it like this, but usually it's a female and usually the judge is a dude, and they bully the clerks. The clerks do not understand that they have more power than the judge. Judge is just there to pass judgment, technically, but the clerk is the one who files it and really has the last say so and can say, yeah, I don't think this is correct. So she has to be the one who files it and it has to be correct, right? Also, if you can get your paperwork notarized under jurat, meaning that before the notary section, it has the word JURAT in capitalized letters. What does jurat mean? It means you're making a solemn and binding legal obligation under penalty of perjury that all information contained therein is fact. And then in your paperwork, you want to submit it and say, this is evidence. This is to be accepted as evidence. And you want this on the record. Now, they may argue and say, oh, this doesn't need to be on the record. It's not criminal. But they'll say, oh, it's quasi criminal. Well, the problem with that is that there's no such thing as quasi criminal. It's either actually criminal or it's civil, meaning statutes and little basic BS codes and whatever else, their regulations. It's one or the other. It can't be quasi, it can't be a little bit of both. One or the other. If you put dog shit in a cake, it's either a good cake or it's a bad cake, and it's a bad cake. So in this case, yeah, all right. But if they do say it's quasi, because you have the ability to ask, well, is this criminal? Is this civil? If they ask and they say quasi, well, sir, I don't understand under what article is quasi a jurisdiction that I can be tried under. Got them. So they'll say it's civil or criminal. Oh, this is a civil infraction. Well, okay. I'll go into more of that when we do the court case videos. All right. We'll break all that down for you guys. This is just to get your feet good and solid in the pavement, but ain't taking to grandma's house just yet. That'll be in those videos. So you have all your information. You've sent a copy of all of your stuff. You closed out everything, blah, 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 blah. Now you're waiting. You send out to the district attorney. You CC'd them. This is key here. You CC on your primary letter, district attorney, chief judge, if you wanted to, governor, chief of police, and then you send each one of those a copy. Clerk, prosecutor, the judge. You're giving them a heads up. When they read all that information, unless they're just pure evil, they're going to want to drop it. And they'll use some excuse like, oh, the judge is busy or whatever else. But you're not going to find out until the day of because they want to test your mettle. They're getting wiser. They're like, oh, you probably bought that off the internet. You don't know those terminologies and words. That's why you should familiarize yourself with the information in the packet. Research all of it. Don't just take my word for it. Research why did the wolf put this in here? What point was he trying to make? I've had lawyers review my work and they go, whoever made this is a $20,000 letter. So you can only imagine what I could charge for this video or for those letters. And I don't. He said, I would charge at least $15,000 to represent somebody and use some of this. He goes, but I can't even use all that information because I would get barred. More than one lawyer said the same thing when I've had people buy my materials and then show their lawyers. And their lawyer's like, oh, I'm not touching that. You can either use that letter or me, but I'm not touching that because they can't. I have too many of their secrets and goodies in there that can get them in trouble. They take an oath to protect the bar first, then each other, and then you as a client. And at any point in time, if something conflicts, they go with the higher one before the lower one. They'll always protect the bar and each other first before you. They will only defend you against another person, which is a legal entity, legal person. So here's what generally happens. If you've done all of this so far, if they don't want the smoke even to begin with, they'll send you back a letter and they'll say we've received this, and they'll either say we've dismissed it for some other reason because they're not going to give you kudos, or they'll say, well, we've received your submission, but we're still going to hold the court case because they want you in there to see if you can recite some of the information, if you're fluent with why this is a factor. That's why you should have another copy for you and another binder when you walk into court. They're going to hate that. They're going to like, oh, this motherfucker's ready. And they don't want to lose. I'll give you this, even though this could be and should be in the court case, and it will be. They don't want to lose because then they have to come out of their bonds and pay the court costs because they've insured the state that they can win and beat you, that they're right and it's perfected, meaning it has to be perfect. Well, when you use my paperwork, I'm giving you like 30, what, one or 35 points. Each one of those points have beaten court cases by themselves, and I'm giving you 30. Now you're getting it. So you're going to get ready. You're going to wait till the last day and you're going to show up. Now, I'm a little bit different, so I'll be honest with you guys. I don't show up because I've already sent them all the information they need. And I personally don't believe I should have to go to hell as an angel in white, Benaha Elohim. I don't believe I should have to go to hell to prove my innocence to the devil. Sounds like an oxymoron, sounds ridiculous to me. So I do take the chance. And I have, after one case, one judge, all the rest of them folded. One was like, nah, I'm just going to do this anyway and issued a warrant. Okay. So I looked up my name later on. There was one. I sent in all my information now to the chief judge, district attorney, and whatever else. And mysteriously, everything got dismissed and discharged. And once again, I didn't show up because I know how to play the game. And I didn't even use all the heat I have. I just used the basic stuff, same stuff that I use for you guys or sell to you guys. So you're going to wait there. The prosecutor will know who you are. He's going to come out. He's going to say, is Mr. So and so here? So, yes. He said, okay, we're going to hold you till last. This is a very good sign. It means they don't want that smoke being brought out in front of all the other people. And why? Because you're going to ruin their motherfucking day. They're going to have to pay for all those court cases, and they got deep pockets, but not that deep, especially in the moment. They don't want to lose. They'll look bad, they'll lose ground, they'll lose face, and they have to pay the court time. So you sit there and you wait. Generally, what will then happen, they'll come back out, usually a little later than expected. The judge is packed today. He's full, so we're just gonna he's got a golf or some, they'll give you some excuse. And then you're going to say, he's gonna say, well, so it's just we dropped it, you know. You want immediate proof. Well, okay, I need that in writing. Can I get that from the clerk? Yeah, just go see the clerk. Now, I'll give you this piece too, because sometimes they do this. This also should be probably in the court case ones. Sometimes at the last minute on that day, they'll switch rooms. And you must look on their bulletin or online to make sure that they didn't switch rooms. But if they did switch rooms or anything like that and they didn't notify you, you can use that against them. So just know that that's a trick too. Also, if you don't want to go in or mail it, you can generally go online. I think either through Pacer or you might have a local one or whatever else. You can file your information as evidence online. And that way you've got proof that they got it and received it and that it's part of evidence. If you don't make it part of evidence, then you just sent them a good notice. But generally, if you do it the way I just said and you CC everybody, they don't want that smoke. They don't want that. They don't want it. And because you're doing everything right, you're doing everything constitutionally. This is your American right. Now, if you don't want it, that's on you. But I want mine. I want it all. Cash, money, hoes, and draws. I want it all. All right. So you wait, you make sure that you get proof from the clerk, then you're good. You walk out of there, don't gloat, don't jump and click your heels, just leave. And if you're gonna go, once again, it's special appearance. I would not recommend walking past the swinging bar because that separates the public from the private. Only the bar members should go past there. You go by that door, it represents you walking onto their ship in dry dock, and now you're in front of the captain on the open seas, and you are now property. If he tries to trick you and go, well, I'm not gonna do all that, and I'm not gonna play those sovereign games. If you don't come through, we're gonna say that you're not present. You say, well, Your Honor, then it's simply then just a matter of do I have permission to make a special appearance past the bar gate? He's got to if he wants you there, he's got to say yes. Your Honor, does this bar door gate here represent? Now, don't say the ship. Don't be stupid. Just say, does it represent any form of jurisdiction, directly or indirectly? Got him. It's got to admit. Can't lie. Your Honor, aren't we understand? Aren't we all sworn to tell the truth and nothing but the truth? All of us? Okay, great. So does that bar represent any form of jurisdiction? Once again, court case stuff. Not going to want to miss those. It's going to be a little bit, the top one's going to be a little bit pricey. I'm going to drop it all. Everything I know, like 95% everything I know. I ain't going to give guys anything that's going to get you into trouble. Something that I would do and know about. But I'm going to give you guys the fire. All right. So take your victory and you leave. You then get a copy of everything because now you've got proof that if you're bothered in the future, put that in your travel binder again, and you can already now you see where I'm going with it. Now you've got proof. But see, here's the thing: you can also go and find other people's right to travel court cases out there and use that as evidence for your support of your case or trial or whatever it might be. That is how you deal with and win right to travel. That's how you do it the proper way. That's how you submit it. You give them a courtesy before the trial comes to warn them of danger. And then after that, whether you're found, now let's say you're found guilty still, okay? And let's say you're stupid and you pled guilty for some reason. Well, then you're guilty. You just blew your whole case. But generally, when they do this, they're either going to dismiss it or they're going to put it under nolo. Nolo contendere means no contest. You're basically saying, you're allowing them to say, we find you guilty, but we can't prosecute you, so we're going to let you go. We're going to dismiss everything. And unless you agree to do some kind of civil work to get that, that's on you. But hey, I'm like, nah, I'm good. Now, let's say that you do have a regular driver's license and you're driving and you did something and blah blah blah. You got convicted. You can ask beforehand for a deferment. What is a deferment? A deferment is where you're basically saying, look, man, you guys got me. I'm guilty. But can I just do something to not necessarily be found guilty? You're deferring your punishment. You're saying, hey, look, man, I'll do a highway cleanup or I'll work in a soup kitchen, I'll do whatever, something, but I don't have to face the direct penalty. You have that as an option as well. So that's a little extra bonus material. Once you have, so if you're found guilty, all right, you really should have somebody in your family prepared to know this information and to be able to act on it. If you're found guilty right away, you can ask the court before they try to take you away in handcuffs right away and just, Your Honor, before you guys try to take me away or whatever else, I request Well, we'll save that part for the court case stuff. But you're going to want to say, Your Honor, I formally request courtesy. What do you mean? Well, I need a couple of days to, or, I need at least a day or a week. I can return on my own free will and accord. If I don't, you guys can come pick me up. But I need to get some things prepared. I have to tell my job I'm not going to be there. I have a pet I have to take care of and feed. My grandmother is sick. Bills come out of my account. I have to prepare these things. You can ask for a courtesy. Well, I no, we're just going to take Your Honor. If not, then that's going to set up for other lawsuits, and I'm medically responsible or financially responsible for other things. I have to take care of that first. And Your Honor, I've read through other court cases, and I've set in on other court cases whether judges have given that, and that's a simple request. And I don't believe that I'm considered a flight risk. So let's be honest, I'm poor. Now, some people might not want to say if they're poor, or some people might not want to say they're an idiot or an idiota. Let me explain. By saying you're poor, that then means that this is your survivability. It's your survivalhood. You have to do these things. I need this courtesy. Saying you're an idiot or an idiota to the judge, hear it from my perspective, because this is what's in their books. You look it up in Black Law's Dictionary. If you say just you're an idiot, you're basically saying that you cannot be prosecuted in law. If you say you're an idiota, you're saying basically I'm not even basically, you're saying I'm a private citizen, not clothed in legal office to be prosecuted by you. If you want to prosecute me, then we need to go to federal court, where I'll then be the uh, prosecution, and they'll be the defendants. Okay, so saying things like this might seem like you're hurting yourself or you're embarrassing yourself. I'll say whatever I need to say if it's going to get me out of a scenario. It's not lying. I'm using legal tactics. I'm using any tactic that works that's legal is legal and lawful. So after all that, if in fact you still, get taken away, then you're going to want to immediately request, even if it can be just a piece of paper or a napkin, and write a writ of mandamus. So you might want to look that up. I've done videos on that for yourself, or have somebody prepared on the outside to send one in for you, or a writ of censitare. Look those up. I've already done videos on them. These are what's going to help you to get out of that scenario. Once again, court cases, I'll go into a little bit more of that in deeper depth. These are emergency things for the scenario. When you're done with all of that, and let's say you're found guilty, but they didn't, they're not arresting you or anything like that, it's fine, or you have to report back later, or they put you on probation or something like that. You then want to immediately file a lawsuit in federal court. But Wolf, I don't know how to do that. Chat GPT knows how to draft all of that up for you for free. There you go. The rest of your information that I have had you put together was for a reason. That if you need to sue in a federal court, you now have all the information and all the evidence, including anything that they did to you in the courtroom, including if they tampered with the information or evidence or video, or what called you a sovereign citizen or whatever, or they refused to put it on the record or whatever else, where your constitutional rights do not apply generally in the lower courts unless you know how to invoke them properly. That will be in the court case videos. So if they do deny you any constitutional right, you want to sue them for all of that and then some in the federal court, and that's where you will win. You don't hear about this on TV because, well, they don't want everybody knowing the sauce. And it's private. This is private information. That's why I have to put it on here and sell it to you guys as private information. Can't just put it on. Well, I guess you could put it on YouTube, but if you're like me, you've been in this long enough, you'll find out that they remove your videos, because almost all the media out there are controlled by 7 elite families, and they don't want you to know this information. But it's a little late for that. They know that the walls are starting to crack, so they're scattering like rats and roaches with the lights on. All right. So, whatever God you guys believe in, may they have mercy on your souls. I am a God-fearing person, though I do not necessarily have a religion, but I do practice being esoteric, believing in energy and that it's conscious. So, with that, be blessed out there. Thank you guys for supporting. That is how you deal with your right to travel scenarios. This is the same information that I give when I do consultations, anywhere between 120 or $50 to $550 for a court case. This is the information that I give. All right. Take care. Travel safe, and I'll talk to you guys later. We got more videos coming. So if you guys want that fire, go get it, because then you guys will have all the smoke and we'll see who doesn't want it then. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for supporting. Take care of yourselves. Be healthy and be wise.